So, after playing the ChaosX Shadow expansion, I've got to say it was a pretty enjoyable experience overall. They've brought in a lot of the adventure staples into the playstyle that 06 sort of emulated but failed to properly replicate in the vanilla release. So the homing attack, being able to hit people rapidly out of it while still having the option to do the multiple hits, is nice. It did come at some compromises though to the original 06's version. So since you can just, it seems to be instantly cancel your homing attack rebound animation into another homing attack, it means that you may accidentally double homing attack into a scenario where you sort of send yourself off into a bottomless pit that you weren't originally intending. And I think the issue is, even on Adventure 2, at least from what I can tell, there's a couple frames after you hit something with a homing attack where Shadow/Sonic won't immediately homing attack again. It's not a large margin, but I do think there is one. And the reason I think so is because here, where it seems like there's none, you really notice the double homing attack, especially if it wasn't what you intended to do. And it did lead into a couple deaths. What we got down here? Okay, the homing attack, oh, freaking hell. The homing attack is far faster than I'm used to for 06. So it looks like they've changed it. Another thing is they seem to have slowed down how fast the homing attack mash Shadow can do is. And I think it's because since they still share the same button as the normal homing attack, but now that the homing attack's been changed, they just felt like if they automate the process, it would, I don't know, I'm just assuming that that's what they planned, that it would make it flow better, but it was just slower, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in the original game you can just press that button as quickly as you can and Shadow will follow suit, and then it'll hop away. But those are some nitpicks, you know. Overall, it does feel better that you can homing attack chain multiple enemies without it taking a year in between each hit. That was a huge problem 06 had. Likewise, the fact that Shadow can just jump into people and it will hit them instead of him, and he will gain a very nice amount of height from that as well. Just an excellent choice. The fact that you gain that much height from doing it incentivizes you to maybe choose not to homing attack an enemy on purpose to use them as a footstool to get somewhere else. Whereas in other games, there really just isn't a reason to jump into them unless it's just quicker. And that's probably why in 06 they just didn't even include the feature, because they thought, well, you're just going to homing attack it anyway. Not that they should have removed it, which is why it's good they brought it back here. I'm just saying that that's possibly what the mindset was behind it. Then with his kicks, the slide kick admittedly does kind of feel less useful now because you can spin dash. Oh yeah, and they bring the spin dash back from Adventure, except it's actually just the 06 spin dash, but now Shadow can do it. But since he couldn't do it before, that is a welcome change. There was no reason he couldn't do it, so this is just better. But because you have access to the spin dash now, the slide kick just... The only difference is it won't put you into a ball, but like that really, well, it's not hard to stop rolling, you know. So the slide kick's just sort of there as legacy now, and then the triple kicks, if you press slide kick but when you're still, I feel like their hitbox has been reduced in size. In the original 06, it had a really stupidly large hitbox. And it still has a larger one than it looks here. I just think it might be shorter, I could be wrong. Either way, due to all of the new options you have now, it doesn't feel that useful. In 06 normal, I did find myself use it on the really big enemies to chip them down fast, but here, it just, every time I did it, it just felt like I was taking longer to do something that I could have done faster by using the homing attack. Which could be good or bad, depending on how you see that. But the spin dash, so like I said, it is based off the 06 spin dash. You can still do a sort of spin dash jump though, and it will take you a little bit higher, just not by far. The speed you gain from spin dashing cancels out very quickly. You do gain speed for rolling down a hill, but it quickly goes away once you stop going down. But all of that is still an improvement over what 06 actually had by default. That's all positive stuff. Chaos Spear, you know, it's still the same. You stay in place, throw your spear, paralyze an enemy, move on. That's all great. But now that they've made the Chaos Boost mode more responsive, or at least I feel like they did, Chaos Spear can become way better. At level 2, you get the AoE damage in Chaos Spear. Even at level 0, when you charge the spears, now it shoots a spread of them instead of one big one, and those spreads deal damage, I'm pretty sure. I didn't test it up thoroughly, but I'm quite certain a fully charged Chaos Spear does damage. But then as you level up your Chaos Boost, they just start doing damage anyway. Chaos Snap at Chaos Boost level 1, super good. The original one in 06 at launch had a problem where Shadow would sort of come out of Chaos Snap. It may not have even targeted who you wanted, and then he'll just drop like a rock, and you can't dash again. That happened to me one time here, but I think it was actually the double homing attack problem that caused it, and not the problem I'm talking about. If you've played 06, you know what I mean with Chaos Snap. It actually became a point in the original where I might just choose not to use Chaos Boost mode because Chaos Snap would get me hurt or killed way more often. Here though, you're teleporting just everywhere, left and right, destroying everybody like in the intro to Shadow's game, and especially if you abuse the double homing attack thing with Snap activated, you're just constantly flickering in and out of existence, dealing machine gun damage to people. It's really cool. So I really like what they did there. And then Chaos Blast at level 3. In the original, Chaos Blast is so bad, and because of those memories, I thought it was still bad here. But what they did is they used the Chaos Blast animation when you upgrade Chaos Boost now, and I mistook that as being a Chaos Blast, so I was constantly wondering, oh, that's doing no damage, and it doesn't seem to be a big hitbox. I would have hoped they changed it, but I guess they didn't. Until I finally activated level 3 Chaos Blast, and it plays that cutscene inspired from the real Chaos Blast, and it actually destroys everything on screen again. Oh, wait! Oh, they did bring the Chaos Blast back. You just have to be level 3. My bad. They went and did it. Perfect. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. Nice. Okay. I mean, I'm glad I finally find out. That's perfect then. My bad. I take it back. Smiling Shadow's clearly pleased as well. Glorious. It's such a, just so satisfying. Shadow should always have that option. I'm really glad they decided to put that into the game. Very impressed. It was just, that was a fantastic decision. The Chaos meter worked fine. All of it worked fine. So Shadow's core moveset, there are a couple nitpicks here and there, but overall it was great. Now, where it gets a little less good is the vehicles. The vehicles were never good, but in an attempt to make them feel better, they have accidentally caused a lot of them to feel worse. The one thing they did succeed with is at no point anymore will your vehicle fall into the ground or become stuck upside down forever and either cause you to die or have to abandon it. But the way around it is all the vehicles are determined to never end up in that position, and they will flip themselves in really strange anti-gravity ways to avoid that, and this will cause you to sort of bounce around like a pinball out of your own control, and it even led to my death at one point. The bike, especially if you make it control nice. Oh, I mean, okay, oh. Right, no, that wasn't me. That was not me. But even when it doesn't, the way that the grounded vehicles control in the air becomes this sort of automated float that you can't really impact anymore, and this does avoid the original game's issues where they just had no control whatsoever. So you go in the air and you're basically dead. You hit a ramp as the developers intended, but then it gets you killed. It does fix that, but it just creates a lot of really weird scenarios if you ever get put into the air. And then speaking of the air glider is nice. There's a boost. I can't remember if the original had it, but this one does, and it's nice. The missiles don't really lock on all the time, but hey, neither did the original. Just the fact that you can speed up the mission, and the fact that it also feels less automated, is nice. I feel like you have more control here, but it's still the glider, and there were a couple times I got stuck behind an object and was just taking constant damage as if it was a mock speed section until I died. Can't remember if that was how it was before, I wouldn't be surprised, but the point is it was there. The buggy, I don't know what they did to that thing, but beyond the fact that you bounce around like a pinball, the acceleration I feel is just really high, and the turning is really unresponsive. And it got to the point where I just said, you know what, I'm not going to bother using it anymore. It wasn't good. It wasn't good in the original, but I feel like in the efforts to make those flaws go away, they created new flaws that are actually worse, sadly. It was nice to see that Rouge is programmed to get in and animate alongside in the buggy. Official release. Oh, and Rouge gets in! There's just so many quality of life additions this has made already. That was a very nice detail they added, and in fact, on that topic, the amount of cutscenes they've added in, or dialogue they've restored, is great. Like Methala showing up in front of E123 Omega, or the Shadow and Sonic dialogue at the top of Crisis City. All of that stuff is really good, makes it feel like a more complete product that actual 06 doesn't have. No complaints there, very impressive work. Speaking of our friends actually, so Rouge and Omega, I got to play as them. Rouge's gameplay was really fun. It felt a lot like Sonic Adventure 2's gameplay. The jumps are maybe a little bit too good on the wall because it pushes you super high up. Unlike 06, you can jump off the walls, but now they push you really high up, and I'm not sure if that was intended because it lets you get high a lot faster. It could have just been the quality of life, but if it wasn't intended, then yeah, that's something you might want to tone down, because even in SA2, jumping up a wall like that doesn't give you so much height. I found that a bit strange. The kicks were nice to be put in, they didn't exist in 06 at all, and they're just a good combat option for quick kills and things like that, and they combo into the drill dive, which was brought back. Fantastic choice as well. Don't know why they got rid of it. And if you did like the bombs and things, they're all still there. The lock-on is improved. The heart landmine is still there, and the Pokeball bombs are still there, so all of that's there. But now you can also hit things with the jump and glide. Alright, detonation and entrance. Can I get a ring? I felt like the rings weren't being picked up properly there. Man, being able to just glide and jump into enemies again as Rouge, like in SA2, very nice change. And it doesn't make the other attacks useless, because if the enemy has a higher health bar, then you may as well just use these other moves. A lot of people think that other moves can be pointless, but that's actually a good reason behind giving enemies health bars. I know a lot of people are against that, because like, oh, in the classic games, you just hit them once and they glide. But the thing is, when you give an opponent more health, you can make them more meaningful. One of the things the modern games suffer with so much is enemy placements are just put there to die. Like, they never pose you an issue, and you bat them away with anything you do. But it also means all the numerous and creative ways you could attack and have a fun engagement with an opponent just don't exist, because just hit them the same way you always do. Which means that all the enemies sort of start blending in together, or they just have something incredibly unfun and annoying, rather than having something interesting that requires you to think on how to kill them the quickest. All of these things combined make Rouge actually fun to play. And again, it just really feels really close to SA2. The only thing is you can't dig, really. That's about it though. The radar as well was also brought back for finding the keys, and it does seem like the keys are randomized in their location for the most part, which was also impressive since they were static in the original release. And the radar worked fine, functioned fine, all of it worked fine, it was very good. I feel like maybe Rouge's attacks could go slightly faster when you're already moving, like the kicks. Other than that, no real complaints. I think overall Rouge was just really fun to use. And then Omega, unfortunately I can't say the same. No melee moves is kind of disappointing. Especially after Heroes, you really want to see that. I feel like they were leading into the Gamma SA2 mech shooting stuff, which is fine because they're sticking faithful to the material. But the problem I have with that is the damage output Omega has compared to both his original 06 and compared to the SA2 mechs is just way too low. And what this does is it makes combat feel slow and unimpactful. All your moves barely do any damage, you've got your lock-on moves that are paper cuts, and you've got your manual moves which do slightly more damage than the paper cuts, but both fire at an incredibly slow rate. And it made even Rouge feel like a better combat character than Omega, which I feel just isn't what it's supposed to be. They did do some improvements to his exploits, namely being able to glide infinitely. You can't do that anymore. He glides more like Gamma does. And they also added the ability to enter a sort of first-person shooter mode where you can fire his chain guns in first person, move about slowly, shoot things at a range. I didn't use that as often as I should because I'm not used to it, but it was a nice inclusion. I just feel like overall Omega didn't feel like the combat monster you would want him to be, but I must reiterate the original didn't succeed in that at all. It had less options than this Omega does. The only difference, apart from the fact that he had that glide exploit, is he just did stupid amounts of damage. So even though he was simpler, less fleshed out, and kind of just worse, just by the fact that he did more damage and it got the fights over quicker, it kind of made him feel better than this Omega, which really sucks to say because there's so much effort programming that machine gun mode. You got to remember, like, the chain guns are only seen in the cutscene. There is no shooting mode for Omega. Omega had almost no options in 06, so it's a very impressive feat, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough to make him feel super fun to play, and that, that's unfortunate. There was clearly a lot of effort put into this, and for the most part it's a resounding success, but I will say Omega didn't feel that great. Overall though, very impressed with what their progress on Shadow. I'm imagining they're going to take quite a break before they work on Silver's story, because that will mean they need to program Blaze and Amy, which I don't think they've touched upon at the moment. But this was good, and I was glad to see that there's just small details have been taken into account and worked on, like how Rouge will get into the car, or how Shadow's mouth actually moves here when he talks in cutscenes. Stuff like that. Just details that Sega themselves couldn't be bothered with or skipped over. This team has put in, and it shows. It's great, and I'm very much looking forward to whenever they decide to push forward with Silver, as well as it's been interesting for me to sort of rummage over the ideas I had for Rouge and Shadow when I get to them in doing my Sonic Adventure 3 design series. Maybe there were some things I was thinking about that now that I've seen in action I might not think as good anymore. But yes, this was great. Playing as Shadow was great. It just made me think, why is this not what the main games let you do anymore? Why can't you play as these characters? Why can't they team up? Why is it always the same singular gameplay? And I hope it sort of gets really big, and maybe Sega catches wind of the fact that we really want this instead of just Sonic Colors again. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of this sort of stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. I know this is kind of different from my usual thing, but I really wanted to try this out. Let me know if you've played this and what you might have done differently. I hope you have a great day, and see you next time. When I'm jumping, is there a higher platform? Also, I've just noticed the physics edition we've got going on there. Yeah, I only just noticed that. Hey, it's lore accurate though. First appearance, same thing.